170 pounds is now the best and most exciting division in the UFC, especially after Carlos Prates got his first UFC main event win yesterday with a first-round KO over Neil Magny. Today we're going to talk about the future of the welterweight division and why this is the best division in the UFC going forward. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. Before we get into the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. If you want access to extra content such as behind the scenes vlogs, members live streams, and things like that, make sure to click the link in the description down below or click the join button on our channel homepage. Thank you very much. Back to the video. Carlos Prates won his first UFC main event yesterday when he viciously KO'd Neil Magny in the very first round at UFC Apex 100. This was a coming out party for Carlos Prates. He looks amazing. He viciously KOs Neil Magny with a glancing blow. It really didn't even land clean. And then him and his Fighting Nerds teammates get to take pictures in their Fighting Nerds glasses with a bunch of UFC stars. Khalil Roundtree, John Jones, Aljamain Sterling, Odie Osborne, multiple people that are notable in the UFC. Khalil Roundtree just challenged Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight belt at UFC 307. John Jones is fighting this coming weekend at UFC 309, and a lot of people regard him as the best of all time. Huge moment for Carlos Prates and the Fighting Nerds in terms of recognition from some of the best in the sport, and Carlos Prates making, basically putting the rest of the welterweight division on notice with that win. Carlos Prates called out Jeff Neal and Jack Della Maddalena, but he did say that Jack Della Maddalena is pretty high up in the rankings, and that might be a little bit too big of a jump right now in terms of booking. But even though it's not likely to happen next, it's a fun fight. Two very, very talented strikers, and I might even take Prates to beat JDM. Let's talk about the future of the welterweight division, okay? This division has the most promising future when it comes to prospects and also young guys that are up at the top of the food chain already. And there's just a few of the old guard at welterweight that are still around, still kicking around the rankings, but they won't be around for much longer, okay? So let's take a look at these rankings, and we're going to just talk about how good the welterweight division is going forward. Here is the welterweight rankings. We have them right here. We have the current champion, Belal Muhammad, who's 38 years old, and frankly, probably not going to be around much longer. I could even see him ending up in PFL at some point. I know that might be a controversial take now that he's a UFC champion, but once he loses the belt, I don't think the UFC is going to want to pay him any sort of elevated pay scale or contract or anything like that. I could see Belal Muhammad going to the PFL at some point and just run up those $1 million tournament wins like 3 or 4 times and call it a career. We have Belal Muhammad right here. He's not going to be around much longer, like I just mentioned. Leon Edwards, I think his path to becoming champion again is slim, given all of the insanely talented prospects that are now contenders. Because right below him, you have Kamaru Usman, who's on his way out. Let's just be honest. He might fight at middleweight next. He might fight Shavkat for the interim belt at UFC 310. But Kamaru Usman is not somebody that's going to contribute to the long-term success of the welterweight division any more than he already has. Second best welterweight of all time behind GSP. So, but he's going to be out of the rankings soon. I think Kamaru Usman has 1 or 2 fights left in his career. His next loss is probably his last fight. Now, you have Colby Covington just floating around down here, but just in the top 5, you have Shavkat Rakhmonov, Sean Brady, and Jack Della Maddalena. These are all prospects that recently found their way into contendership. And then down from there, we have some even more guys that are up-and-coming prospects. You have Ian Machado Garry, ranked 7th right here. Amazing talent. But, I mean, just like look at this division just from a prospect standpoint. So you have the champ and then 15 guys in the rankings. So 16 guys. And you got Shavkat young, Sean Brady young, JDM still young, Ian Machado Garry, Joaquin Buckley, Michael Morales. And then you got some guys that are going to filter out. Carlos Prates is going to be at this 15 spot coming Tuesday when they do the rankings update. And then, like, look, Belal's not going to be around for a while. Leon probably doesn't become champion again. Usman's going to be out of here soon. 1 or 2 more fights. Colby's got 1 or 2 more fights. Gilbert Burns isn't going to be around for much longer. Jeff Neal, maybe. Stephen Thompson, maybe. MVP. Vicente Luque. Frankly, I think he's already checked out on his career after the way he quit against Joaquin Buckley. And if he loses to Nick Diaz, he's probably done. Neil Magny's not ever going to catch a ranking again. So, but the future of this welterweight division, when you look at the title fights that could possibly happen in the next 3 to 5 years at welterweight, you have, I mean, not even 3 to 5. I mean, you could even look at it from a 2 to 4 and 1, and maybe some of them are like a year away. But just look at these new names that are not like Kamaru Usman, Wonder Boy, Leon, people that are long established in the UFC welterweight division. You have these new guys. You have, like, imagine all of these potential title fight matchups in the next 4 years. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Machado Garry, Joaquin Buckley, Michael Morales, and then you have Carlos Prates is going to come in at this 15 slot when they update the rankings. But this is such an insane level of talent to have that have not challenged for belts, had been fraud checked in any major way. Like Sean Brady bounced back very well from the Bilal Muhammad loss, and it's his only loss, and it's to the guy that is now champion. So it ages incredibly well. Even though he got TKO'd, he got finished by Bilal Muhammad, and it wasn't a sub, which is not too good for the boy Sean Brady. But, you know, when you fly to Abu Dhabi, there's the jet lag. I'm not making excuses, but even Khabib did say in between rounds in that fight, brother, he jet lag, finish fight. Brother, he jet lag. And this right here is Fight Matrix. This is, a, you know, obviously not official UFC rankings, but it gives us an idea of rankings for the division outside the top 15. We have all of the amazing prospects that I've mentioned so far, but we also have Rinat Fakhretdinov, who's 25-2-1, who did just win via robbery in Abu Dhabi in October. But there's just Nicholas Dalby is really good. He's a little bit older. Jake Matthews is kind of doing his thing on the come up, having a resurgence. Now that he's at 170 instead of 155. The same thing for Uros Medic. He was at 170 or at 155. Now he's at 170, seeing a career resurgence. Who else do we have? Themba Garimbo's on the come up. We have the one of the Bonfim brothers. We have Oban Elliott. Brian Battle is another guy that I didn't mention. Sultan Ruzaboyev, Mike Mallet, Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radke. What I'm trying to get, Kevin Jusay, Danny Barlow. Yeah, you guys get my point here. I'm going very in depth here, but the UFC welterweight division is shaping up to be probably the best division over the course of the next 4 years. And I know that you can go deeper into the prospects of each division and talk about, oh, Peyton Talbot's at 135 and you have these other guys at 170. You have these guys at 55 coming up. But the star weight class in the UFC has been 155 pounds for a while. I think it very well could be welterweight coming up very soon, because if you look at 155, you have a lot of aging fighters that are going to be retired or losing fights back to back to back as they are on their way out of their career at 155, which has been the premier division for quite some time, along with 135. You have Oliveira's probably not going to be around for a whole lot longer. I'm not saying next year he's done, but not for a whole while longer. Gaethje and Poirier probably have one fight left. Chandler's probably got less than 2 years left in his career. Same with Beneil Dariush. And then RDA is not a lightweight anymore, but we already have a generation of new guys that are at 155 and semi-established. Like Paddy Pimblett's going to be looking to make a title run. Benoit Saint-Denis, Moicano's on the rise. Gamrot is always around. Dan Hooker has a chance to get up there. Arman Sarukian, Rafael Fiziev. But a lot of these guys are more established. I wouldn't necessarily call Gamrot or Benoit Saint-Denis or Paddy Pimblett a prospect at this point. I guess Paddy you can still throw in there, but for 170, you know, all of these unproven guys that I mentioned on Fight Matrix, but you also have in the UFC rankings, Michael Morales, young, undefeated. Carlos Prates is about to break into the rankings. Ian Garry, young and undefeated. Jack Della Maddalena's won like 17 fights in a row. Shavkat's undefeated, all finishes. You guys get my point. Let me know your thoughts, because to me, I think this is shaping up to be the premier UFC division in over probably the next 5 years. So let me know what you think down below. UFC welterweight division's future. What are you excited for? And what do you think about Carlos Prates' KO of Neil Magny this weekend? Thanks. Thanks for watching this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. It really helps us out a lot. If you want access to extra content and you want to support the channel further, please make sure to become a channel member by clicking the link down below or clicking the join button on our channel homepage. If you want more content from me, go check out my non-MMA podcast, What's Up Bro with Wyatt and Bo, in the link down below. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.